On October 3, 1955, a small cargo vessel left the harbor of Apia, Samoa. There were 25 people on board: fathers, sailors, a doctor, a government official. They were headed toward the remote Tokelau Islands, a routine journey across the South Pacific. The trip should have taken less than 2 days. They never arrived. 5 weeks later, the ship was found drifting more than 600 miles off course. It was still afloat, still intact, but completely abandoned. Food sat untouched. Clocks had stopped. The radios were damaged. And inside the cabin, investigators found blood-stained bandages. No lifeboats, no bodies, no survivors. To this day, no one knows what happened aboard the MV Joyita. The MV Joyita was not a large ship. She was just over 69 feet long, built originally as a luxury yacht in 1931 in Los Angeles. During World War II, she was used by the United States Navy. After the war, she was sold and converted into a small cargo and passenger vessel operating between Samoa and the Tokelau Islands. She was considered sturdy, reliable, even unsinkable. The Joyita had a cork-lined hull, packed with buoyant material designed to keep her afloat, even if she flooded. In theory, she could not sink, which makes what happened even more disturbing. On the morning of October 3, 1955, the Joyita departed Apia Harbor. Her captain was Thomas "Dusty" Miller, an experienced sailor familiar with Pacific waters. On board were 16 crew members and 9 passengers. The cargo included medical supplies, copra, food, and personal goods. Nothing unusual. The weather that day was reported as fair: moderate winds, calm seas. The estimated travel time to Tokelau, around 48 hours. But 2 days passed, then 3. There was no arrival, no radio message, no distress signal. At first, authorities assumed minor mechanical trouble. But as days turned into weeks, concern grew. The ocean had gone silent, and the Joyita had vanished. On November 10, 1955, 5 weeks after the Joyita disappeared, a merchant vessel named Tuvalu spotted something unusual in the distance. A ship, drifting, alone. At first, it looked like wreckage, but as they approached, they realized it was still upright, still floating. It was the Joyita. She was more than 600 miles off her intended course, far from any shipping lanes, far from where she should have been. And something was terribly wrong. When the rescue crew climbed aboard, they expected to find survivors. Instead, they found silence. No voices, no footsteps, no signs of life. The deck was partially flooded. Water filled the lower compartments, but the ship was far from sinking. In fact, due to her cork-lined hull, the Joyita was nearly impossible to submerge completely, which raised a chilling question. If the ship was still afloat, why had everyone abandoned it? The scene inside the cabin was unsettling. Clocks had stopped at 10:25. The ship's logbook was missing. The radios had been damaged, their wires cut or removed. Navigation equipment was gone. Most of the lifeboats were missing. But here's the strange part. Food was still laid out. Dishes were stacked. Personal belongings remained untouched: shoes, clothing, even cargo. In the medical cabinet, investigators found blood-stained bandages. Not a large pool of blood, but enough to suggest someone had been injured, badly enough to require treatment. And yet, there were no bodies, no signs of struggle, no bullet holes, no visible attack damage, just an abandoned vessel, quietly drifting across the Pacific. Search operations began immediately. Aircraft scanned the waters. Ships combed the surrounding ocean. Nothing was found. No wreckage, no lifeboats, no floating debris, no bodies. It was as if 25 people had stepped off the face of the earth, or into the sea, and the Pacific kept its secret. The first explanation seemed simple: a storm. The Pacific is unpredictable. Even on calm days, sudden squalls can form without warning. Perhaps rough seas damaged the vessel. Perhaps a massive wave struck at night. But there was a problem. Weather records from that week showed no major storm systems in the area. Moderate winds, normal conditions. And more importantly, the Joyita was still afloat, badly listing, but far from destroyed. A storm alone didn't explain the missing radios, or the missing people.
Could pirates have boarded the ship?
In the 1950s, parts of the Pacific still had isolated criminal activity. Some suggested the crew may have been attacked, robbed, kidnapped. But again, the evidence didn't support it. Cargo remained. Valuables were untouched. There were no signs of gunfire, no visible damage from weapons, and no distress signal mentioning an attack. If pirates had taken them, why leave the ship? Another possibility emerged: insurance fraud. Was the ship deliberately abandoned? Was this a staged disappearance? But this theory quickly fell apart. The Joyita was not heavily insured. The owner gained nothing from its loss. And abandoning a vessel mid-ocean would be nearly suicidal. This wasn't a convincing motive. Then investigators looked closer at the physical evidence. The Joyita had a history of engine trouble. On the day she left Samoa, one of her engines was reportedly malfunctioning. Her bilge pumps, responsible for removing water from the hull, were known to be unreliable. When she was found, the ship was heavily tilted to one side, listing sharply. Water had entered the lower compartments. Now imagine the scene. It's night. The ship is leaning. Water is rising slowly. The engines are failing. The radio isn't transmitting clearly. The captain, Thomas "Dusty" Miller, was reportedly in poor health. He had a severe infection in his hand. Some reports suggest he may have suffered heart problems as well. If the captain became incapacitated, who was in charge? If the crew believed the ship was sinking, even if it wasn't, they may have made a desperate decision to abandon ship. But here is the tragic irony. The Joyita could not fully sink. Even with water flooding her hull, the cork insulation kept her afloat. The ship survived, but the people who left it likely did not. A small lifeboat, open ocean, strong currents, no radio, no shelter. In the vastness of the Pacific, they would have had little chance. Officially, the case remains unsolved. No bodies were ever recovered.
No lifeboat was ever found. No confirmed distress call was recorded. But among maritime historians, one conclusion feels the most likely. The Joyita did not kill her passengers. Fear did, and the ocean finished the rest. After the Joyita was towed back to port, investigators searched every inch of the vessel. They reconstructed timelines, interviewed relatives, examined mechanical reports, but no definitive answer ever emerged. The official inquiry concluded that the most probable cause was gradual flooding, mechanical failure, and a panicked evacuation. But probable is not certain, and in mysteries like this, uncertainty is everything. The families of the 25 missing passengers never received closure. No remains were returned. No confirmed final moments were recorded. Just silence. The Pacific Ocean covers more than 63 million square miles. It is vast beyond imagination. Even today, with satellites and GPS, ships still disappear. In 1955, rescue technology was limited. A small lifeboat drifting in open ocean would have been almost impossible to locate. Currents in that region can carry debris thousands of miles. If the passengers abandoned the Joyita, they likely entered one of the most unforgiving environments on Earth. And the ocean does not give back what it takes easily. The Joyita herself survived. She floated. She endured. She told part of the story, but not all of it. Somewhere beneath the surface of the Pacific, 25 stories ended without witnesses. No final words, no confirmed cause. Just a drifting ship. And a question that still lingers. What truly happened aboard the MV Joyita?